How's it, guys? This is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video we're going to be looking at the Game Week 10 preview. I think this video should have been called the Ultimate Guide to Manchester City because that's pretty much exactly what this video is going to be about. We're going to be looking at Manchester City as a whole, and then we're going to be looking at the individual players. Which players should you be looking at to bring in, and also are there defensive players worth bringing in? We're going to be looking at the fixtures and the stats and hopefully coming to a conclusion. However, FPL is quite predictable, so you're going to come to your own conclusions, but hopefully I can help you out. So that's something you're interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So a new season calls for a new sponsor, but here on the Dayvy FPL channel, we like our old. So I've brought back the old sponsor, OneFootball, but with a completely new revamped app. Yes, OneFootball has gone over a complete marketing revamp, new logo, new everything. I've checked it out, looks really good. They kind of took the old app, but just made it better. So I'm really appreciative of that. If you want to go check them out, link down in the description below to go download the app. If you don't know who they are, they're the biggest app on iOS and Android, so go check them out. I personally use them, so I can recommend them from a personal level. So the Champions League is resuming this midweek. Fixtures are going to be happening tonight as well as Wednesday. I'm pretty sure the biggest news to come out of the Champions League is whether Mo Salah is going to be back fit. Obviously, you know, he did have that positive test, but he is currently returned to training, so I'm pretty sure that he'll be ready for that Wednesday night fixture. So if you want to bring him back in, or maybe you still own him, I think that's going to be the main talking point you're going to be looking at. But there are other usual talking points that you should obviously look at: injuries, game time, and all that jazz. So just keep your eyes on these Champions League fixtures and those Europa League fixtures as they are resuming this midweek. But let's get in and look at the watch list. So the watch list has been updated, unfortunately, because of Wilfried Zaha's illness. Hoping that he does recover from that illness, we've managed to bring him out and we brought other options back in, and that includes Diogo Jota. So 4 goals out of those limited starts that he has had, but recently he is starting a lot more fixtures. Started this weekend's game with the kind of missing of Mo Salah because of illness, but I'm pretty sure that his form kind of makes him that he's not going to be out of that starting lineup anytime soon. That is a little bit unpredictable, however, as Bobby Firmino finally did get his goal, so maybe Diogo Jota will drop to the bench when Mo Salah's back, but that's yet to be seen. I certainly wouldn't be dropping a player that is scoring as many goals as he is currently, as he's gone on a really nice consecutive run. I know that he didn't score against Manchester City, but before that he was scoring a hat-trick in the Champions League against Atalanta. So let's see what he does this midweek, and maybe that'll give us some information about this upcoming weekend. So Jota has had a price rise, so he currently is 6.6, but really affordable, especially if he is going to be consistently playing. As a Liverpool attacker for 6.6 is absolutely ludicrous. The next option we have had are 2 kind of returnees from previous previews, a watch list, but it's Ziyech and Grealish. So both these players didn't have the best Game Week 9, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be booted from my Game Week 10 preview just yet. 8.3 and 7.6, I think that still provides massive value for these 2 midfield options. Ziyech is really pulling the strings there at Chelsea. Chelsea's showing better form than the opening couple game weeks, and I think that's no surprise considering Ziyech's come back from that injury that he had at the start of the season and is providing some really good assisting and even the occasional scoring threat, where Jack Grealish is just the main talisman for Aston Villa. If they score, it's pretty much going to come through him. I know this weekend that didn't necessarily happen, but it was kind of a headed goal, so you got to excuse that one. But usually Grealish is in the mix of things, and he basically plays every single minute, so you know exactly what you're going to be getting every single weekend. As long as he's not injured, he's definitely going to remain on my watch list. Unfortunately, I can't bring him in because I do have Steer on my bench. Yes, that 4.0 keeper, I never knew that he was going to come back to bite me, but I actually opted for Ollie Watkins, his striker compatriot, instead of Jack Grealish, just because I could simply upgrade Mitrovic. But Jack Grealish is definitely on my watch list, and especially if I was to wildcard, I definitely would have the English midfielder in my squad. So now let's get to the main talking point and what this video is all about. So starting off, we're going to be looking at the fixtures. Then we're going to be looking at the stats, and hopefully we're going to bring a conclusion towards the end of the video. But the main talking point is, are Manchester City worth it? Manchester City go on a nice run of fixtures right now, and we always talk about that sea of green. This is a sea of green on steroids because they have Fulham and West Brom at home in the next 4 fixtures. Filling in Burnley and the Manchester United, who have sometimes looked quite lackluster. I definitely can see some Manchester City goals in this one, and hopefully some wins and some FPL points for our players. So I've highlighted 2 players here, Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne, because I think these 2 players are going to be the main options. You obviously have your Gabriel Jesus's, you have your Sergio Aguero's. The nice thing is that Sergio Aguero was actually on the bench in Game Week 9, So if you are kind of a fan of Sergio Aguero, in the previous FPL seasons he's been great value, and this season could be quite good. Has had quite a few injuries recently, so maybe that's something to take into consideration, but you could obviously look at those two options. But I'm just going to focus on Sterling and De Bruyne because I think those are the main options and the most popular options people will look at. We'll talk about the defensive options when we look at the stats a little bit, because I think that's going to kind of give a good indication of if those Man City defenders are good value or not. But those next upcoming fixtures are the reason that I actually do have both of these two players. I do have Sterling and De Bruyne. Because of the whole Salah situation, I managed to take Salah out and I brought Kevin De Bruyne in just because I thought that Kevin De Bruyne was a better captaincy option over these next two. Fulham and Burnley in the next two at home, and I'm kind of hoping that Manchester City bounce back from this poor form that they've been having. And the weird thing with Manchester City is that sometimes not the easy fixtures that are the good results. This season they've really been struggling to break teams down that kind of sit at the back, and that's exactly what I think a side like Burnley are going to do. So it's going to be quite interesting to see if Manchester City can manage to break them down. And the nice thing about it, if they manage to get an early goal, it kind of opens up the game a lot, and that's going to be on for quite a high scoring game for Manchester City in my opinion. So I'm willing to give them the next two fixtures because I think it's going to be enough time for us to assess the situation over at Man City, and then we can easily jump on a Game Week 12 Liverpool assets as they do face Fulham as well. So these two options, I think in terms of fixtures, you can't really ignore them. I would kind of recommend maybe taking one or two of them in and then switching them on for those Liverpool assets come Game Week 12. If you do own Mo Salah, I probably would keep him though. I wouldn't be shipping him out, as I think that Liverpool are looking a little bit better than Man City, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So next we're going to be looking at the comparison. So what I've done here is I've compared Manchester City this season to Manchester City last season. So that's the graph on the left. So that's the one we're going to be focusing on as well. And just something to take note is that the defensive stats are reversed. So just because they have a better goals conceded is actually the opposite. The bigger the better in this case. So if you are looking at the defensive stats, this is something to look at. So no surprise there. The blue graph on the left is Manchester City this season, and the red graph is Manchester City last season. You can see a massive reduction there on not only goals, XG, big chances, and shots in the box, but they also are actually showing some slight regression in the defensive stats. I don't think that's too much to worry about, as Manchester City always have that possession. As you can see, they are consistent between this season and last season, but we definitely can see a reduction in those XG and attacking stats, which is quite worrying. What I've done then is I've compared them on the right to Manchester City this season and Liverpool this season, because I mean, it might be a weird season this season and last season was quite a lot easier. So I've gone for this season's comparison of Liverpool and Manchester City. Manchester City in blue and then Liverpool in red, sticking to those team colors there. But you can see that Liverpool are actually showing a lot better form, not only in goals, XG, and big chances, but also in shot. With Liverpool, you can see that they're performing better than Manchester City, which is why I was talking about the whole fact that if you own Salah, I wouldn't be taking Salah out, as if you look at these stats from a team point of view, Liverpool are actually doing a lot better than Man City, and that is quite worrying for me. So the next comparison we're going to be doing is Sterling versus De Bruyne. We spoke about these two being the main popular assets that people are looking at. So what I did was I compared these two to see who's the better option, as I'm pretty sure most of us will go for the captaincy on these two players. So we want the better option overall. So as you can see, actually Kevin De Bruyne is beating Raheem Sterling on shots, big chances, and XG, which is quite surprising considering that Sterling is a more attacking player than Kevin De Bruyne. But Kevin De Bruyne has actually been playing a little bit more of an advanced role this season, which hopefully correlates to more FPL points. But recently it hasn't been the case. So you can definitely see Kevin De Bruyne in red kind of stomps Sterling in blue, and which is why if you were to go for one of these two players, I definitely would go for Kevin De Bruyne. Now Sterling is the more streaky player, so he kind of has the high ceiling on occasional game weeks, whereas De Bruyne is maybe a consistent 8-pointer. Sterling is a 2 to 15-pointer. So maybe from a captaincy point of view, if you want more of a differential, then maybe go for Sterling. But I definitely think that Kevin De Bruyne is the safer option to go for. And that's who I would kind of recommend if you are looking at Manchester City option. I would probably lean a little bit more towards Kevin De Bruyne, as I think that he's going to equal more FPL points over the long run. So finally, what I wanted to do was, because we've spoken about this whole Liverpool versus Man City situation, how Liverpool are actually performing better than Man City. So what I did was I considered Mane to Kevin De Bruyne. Now Sadio Mane, why I did him is I think most people own Mo Salah, and Sadio Mane and Mo Salah's stats are relatively the same. Salah just has more shots in the box and that kind of thing, and overall Salah's the better option. But as I said, most people own Salah, so if you are looking looking at bringing in Kevin De Bruyne, you could actually look at bringing in Sadio Mane as well. If you're looking more for a differential, then Sadio Mane offers a nice little alternative to the Man City options, considering that Liverpool are playing better than Man City. Now, Man City could actually change their form, and because of this return of Sergio Aguero and players like Gabriel Jesus, you must remember that for the majority of the season, they've actually been playing with a false 9, either Sterling, Mahrez, or Fernan Torres there. So maybe the return of an out-and-out centre forward is going to boost them back into that form that we used to, and they can actually do quite well. I just wanted to kind of plant this seed in your mind. If you are considering Kevin De Bruyne or Sterling, you might as well consider Sadio Mane as well, because in terms of XG and big chances, he's actually doing a lot better than Kevin De Bruyne, which maybe is a little bit more expected. So finally, to wrap up this game week preview, we're going to be looking at captaincy. So my favorite captaincy option this week is a no-brainer. It's going to be Jamie Vardy against Fulham. It is a home fixture for Leicester. They're going to be looking to bounce back after that Liverpool defeat, which I'm sure they will, considering it is Fulham, who are absolutely terrible. So I'm backing Jamie Vardy in here. If you own him and you have him in your squad, I think you might as well captain him. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are actually going to be looking at Jamie Vardy to bring him in this game week just to captain him. And if that's one of your options, I think that's a great option to go by. I think it's going to be on for quite a haul against Fulham. My second options are Kevin De Bruyne or Mo Salah. You could also go for Sterling or Sadio Mane as usual. But with Mo Salah coming back from his illness, I think that Brighton away is quite a good fixture for them, especially considering that Lamptey is out with suspensions. I think that Liverpool are going to have quite a lot of fun against Brighton. It is an away fixture, which is quite a little bit of a hindrance considering the form that Liverpool have been in at home. But then we also have Kevin De Bruyne at home against Burnley. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if Man City kind of break down that low play from Burnley. They're probably going to park the bus quite a bit, but I still think that Kevin De Bruyne is a relative shout for captaincy if you do have him in your squad. But I think 100% the best captaincy option this week is going to be Jamie Vardy. So this is basically a wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new and have not subscribed yet. I'll be checking you guys in the team selection coming up later in the week, otherwise on my Twitter at DayvyFPL. I'm going to be signing off. It's been DayvyFPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.